Hello. Morning, guys. Hope everybody is doing well. Today, we are going to be talking about whether or not we think that 2018 to 2023 are these years going to be ruined by overproduction of sports cards. Let's talk about this. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of my collectibles friends out there. How's everybody doing? It is Wednesday. It's hump day. We are halfway through the week. I'm ready for the weekend. I'm going to the Raleigh Card Show this weekend. I've got Flippin' Steve coming into town. It's my daughter's birthday. We've got all sorts of things going on. So hope Steve brought some Barbies with him for my daughter. I assume that he's bringing a pony, some massive gift for my daughter on her birthday. But in all seriousness, I'm looking forward to seeing him. Looking forward to hanging out with him and my brother-in-law and some other guys at the Panthers-Saints game this weekend. Although I did find out that the Saints have a bunch of offensive coaches that have been hit with it. So we don't know if they're going to be playing or not. We don't know exactly what's going on. I hope that half the team is not going to have to be in quarantine. Oh man, I hope that it can still happen, I guess is my concern there, especially with all of us actually going to the game. Housekeeping note, we will have Off Center tonight. Brad and I will be on. I just don't know. High Maintenance Brad is traveling and hasn't gotten back to me as to the time. So it might be 7 p.m. Eastern. It might be 10 p.m. Eastern. It might be 9 p.m. Eastern. But I will let you know as soon as I have it. I'll get the thumbnail going. But just keep an eye out for that. That'll definitely be tonight. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. I'm looking forward to seeing Brad and hearing about how the summit went. He was out there in Vegas. We'll probably spend a good portion of the show. Well, I shouldn't say a good portion, but some of the show talking about, just what was going on at that summit. What was it like with, Panini, Topps, Fanatics, etc. So yeah, it'll be good. All right, guys, I was having a thought. I woke up this morning, and I've been thinking about this for a while, but also thought about it this morning when I woke up laying in bed. And, we look back at junk wax era, going back to, 89, 88 to, 92, 93 for sports cards. And those were kind of like the overproduction, the big time, printing years when that was kind of the last sports card boom. That was the last time that sports cards were really kind of on the map and everybody was involved. The last time sports cards really had a mainstream feel where it was in the national news and it was really kind of a thing for a while. Now, where we are today is similar, but it's also a little bit different. I thought that Bench Clear Media had a really good video yesterday, I believe, and they were in Las Vegas and they were going around to just kind of people on the street talking to them about sports cards, and they didn't run into one person that, now granted, small data set there, they ran it, they were talking to maybe a dozen people or whatever it was, but they didn't run into one person that was like, oh yeah, I collect this or that. I've heard, they've heard of it, but most of them had not really even heard of this. It didn't feel at all mainstream. And it's not, frankly, because when I was a kid back in, 88 to 93, when I was there during that first junk wax era. I was in it. I was one of them, but it was literally like every kid in school was involved. I mean, it was almost odd if you were not collecting some sort of cards back then. And nowadays, yes, you do have the youth that are involved in it, but it's not the same. And you could say okay, well, hobby boxes are $1,000 and you can't find retail, but that's a recent phenomenon. That's something that's happened over the last couple of years. 5 years ago, you could go to Walmart and buy football cards. Even 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I kind of wonder though, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, are we going to look back at this particular time and say okay, that's where they really started turning on the printing presses. And, as far as prices go, we'll just have to see how that goes. I think a big thing is that how does this kind of market evolve into, a legitimate alternative asset class with collectibles as a whole, not just sports cards, but collectibles as a whole. Sports cards being a big part of it, though. I think that sports cards, it has the ability to be a big part of it. We mentioned, I think it was last week, there was a research company that put out that they're estimating that it could be up to a $97 billion a year market, which is a dramatic increase. And that's just for sports memorabilia, sports cards. cards, not collectibles as a whole, but just sports cards. That's an insane increase from where it has been and where it is now. So now granted, it's one market research company. I'm not sure how they predict the future for that sort of stuff. I don't know what trends they're looking at, but still, you see that all the time in industries, whether it be this industry or any other industry. You see these market research reports that show that potential growth. And so I think that's really going to kind of dictate a lot of this is how mainstream does this get? How much is the demand affected? How much demand is there? Because sports as a whole has grown dramatically over the last 30 years. 30 years ago, just watching NFL football or even NBA basketball, you were kind of just getting your regional games on a few channels. ESPN wasn't even really around, it was just kind of getting going 30 years ago. I remember watching it when I was a kid, but it was a newer thing back then. You didn't have DirecTV to have all the games to be able to see them. You didn't have the same sort of access that you do now to sports. And then you have social media where athletes can connect with the public. That's a huge deal. That didn't exist when I was a kid. These were like mythical legends. I never even thought in any sort of way that I would be able to communicate with a LeBron James or be able to see their daily thoughts, where you can on like a Twitter or an Instagram or something like that. It's changed. It's changed a lot. And I think that the access to the athletes, and it's a big reason why people collect sports cards, is it's their way of kind of, feeling connected to a player. That's one way that they can do it is like, okay, I've got that player's rookie card. I'm part of that group. I've got this rare insert. I feel connected to this particular player and their career. You see this thing kind of evolving. And I think that'll be very interesting to see, augmented reality, virtual reality. What's it going to look like in 20, 30 years? I think that it's going to continue to evolve. And I think it's going to continue to grow where you just look at all the money that's moving into this space, into sports cards, sports memorabilia, and everything around it. I think that it's serious business, obviously. I don't think we go back to what it was previously. In part, though, because I think that's a natural evolution of just, sports growing, and the league's growing. The league's looking to grow their revenues. The NFL, the MLB, the NBA, NHL, soccer, they're all looking to grow revenues and they're finding ways to do that digitally. We're in this digital age now. And so that's where when we look at cards, that 2018 draft class, we're looking at basketball cards in particular, that's where people went when they're buying cards. They look at that as kind of like that first year where print runs started kind of moving upward with Luka and Trey draft class. Then you've got Zion, Ja draft class of 19. And now you're really starting to see it now. 2020 basketball, 2020 products are moving now to retail. Like Select is not just a hobby product. Now it's also retail. And you're starting to see some production going. And then Fanatics pays 10x, potentially 10x what the licensing fees were for Topps, Panini, whatever. And so now you're thinking like, well, they're probably not going to print less if they're paying that much, for that license. And so how is this going to look down the line? We're going to have an increase in demand across the board. It's got to be more of a mainstream thing. And it looks like it's heading that way. It kind of, if you're like reading the tea leaves, it looks like, Fanatics is a company that's already selling apparel. They're a company that can tie this thing all together. They've got the means, they've got the resources, they've got the website, they've got kind of the outline to be able to tie all these things together. It'll all be in kind of the execution of that happening. But, will we look back kind of 20 years down the road and be like, man, remember like all the different parallels for all these things? Or will we look back and be like, oh man, 2018, 2019, that was child's play compared to what they're doing now and how it's all evolved. And, those are actually kind of scarce compared to what they've got now. Talked on the channel about kind of that junk wax 2.0, and it's not even just that. It's also, as you also take into account graded cards. We're in an age where over the last couple of years, everybody has sent every card in to get graded. There's a massive backlog at the grading companies. And we talked about the junk slab era. So you've got kind of like all the slabs that are going to come back, all the cards that are being printed. What does that look like down the road? And it's always a focus on scarcity and rarity, but parallels, even numbered parallels, if they've got 1,000 different parallels that are numbered, then even like, are the numbered parallels rare? And the answer is not really. Not really. So it's going to be, again, we're going to have to, we talk about this here on the channel, but I think that this is kind of the thought. And I want to throw it out to the audience as well, out to viewership, to comment on 20 years from now. Do you think this is going to be kind of like 2018 to 2023 was like, man, those were the production years? Or will it be 2018 to 2025, or will that be kind of the new norm because there will be enough demand to meet it? Or will they kind of like really scale up printing to meet demand, but kind of like with the 90s, will it then fall back because the demand goes away for a period of time and then it comes back, kind of the cycles of it. It'll be, honestly, it's going to be really wild to watch it. I also think about too, will they get smarter as far as, like with Walmart and Amazon, these are huge companies that have been able to really do their logistics well to where if there is something that's sold out on the shelf, they're able to identify it very quickly and order more of it. And if something is sitting on the shelf, they don't order more. Like they've got their logistics down pat. Walmart was the one that really, really got good at this. They put a system in place, a computerized system to be able to really track their inventories. And Amazon, similar type deal. And so, will Walmart have a way to kind of see, like, I guess what I'm wondering is, I don't know if 1990 will ever happen again because Walmart is not going to continue to order more cards and have them in the back, whatever. And then I think that they're going to just have exactly what they need out there, for the most part. And so I think that that's going to be just really interesting to watch. Just logistics have gotten so much better over the years. In other words, 2020, 2021, 2022 is just a different place from a business standpoint than it was in 1990. It was very primitive back then in comparison. So yeah, we will have to see, guys. We will have to see. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments, just on all the new, and I know I've got a vintage watchers that are kind of like, hey, this works well for me. All this new product stuff, I don't really care about it. Not at this point because I'm focused on vintage, and so this doesn't really bother me at all. But let me know too, if you're a new product person, what are your thoughts on it? Have you totally given up on it? Have you moved into other things? I want to hear your thoughts as well. So hit me up in the comments. All right, guys, have an amazing Wednesday. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.